And we'll post it later for everybody to be able to see too. Okay, hi everybody, welcome. Welcome to this introduction webinar on Co-VidSpeak. If you have questions, I've gone ahead and muted everybody so we don't have people talking all over each other and everything. So if you have questions or anything that you would like to ask or that you need help with, feel free to post them in the chat. And I will check that every once in a while as we go through to try to get a feel for what questions people have. Also, you're always welcome to message me afterwards. My email is brian@coughdrop.com. Happy to talk, answer whatever questions people have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm going to give a little bit of background about what Co-VidSpeak is, how it came about. I'll talk about some of the basic functionality, and then I'm going to talk about some examples of how we can use it in our current physical distancing world. So here we go. So Co-VidSpeak, a little bit of background about the app. It's pretty new. I started working on it in May, maybe April of this year. And the impetus for it was the COVID-19 pandemic. Bill Binko at Lesson Picks, who you may or may not know, reached out to me. He sent me a story, an article in the New York Times about this doctor who was saying, look, my patients, I want them to be able to succeed and be able to heal and recover. And the best way for them to do that is to have their family close to them. But with the COVID pandemic, we're isolating all these patients. And so they're getting cut off from their loved ones. And that's going to negatively affect their ability to be able to recover. And so the concern about that, he shared a story of an elderly woman, and her husband was sat by her bedside, and as he left the room to not be able to come back for a while because of all the isolation protocols, her heart rate spiked and her breathing sped up, and it just was a very negative thing for her health and well-being. And so Bill, he said, we got to do something about this. And that hit me very personally, and also Bill very personally, because both of us have had loved ones that have been in the ICU on a breathing tube, on a ventilated situation. And we know what that's like, and how hard it is to recover even with people around you. And I just can't imagine what it would be like to have to do that on your own, completely cut off. We would hear stories of nurses in New York when things very first hit, and they had a cell phone, and they were calling family members, and then they were holding out on a selfie stick these phones, so at least the individuals could see their families. There was no way they could talk to them and interact with them, but they could at least see them. So we said, we got to change this. We got to be able to do something about it. And Bill, as we were talking about it, at Lesson Picks, they create printed resources and some interactive online resources as well around their symbol library, which there's a lot of great stuff there. If you haven't looked at it, you should. But he said, one of the things that we do is this. They're similar to E-Tran boards. There's the clear plastic choice boards, which you may have seen, where you have sort of a clear perimeter, and you stick your head in the middle, so then you can watch the person through it, and you put choices around you, and so then they can look at those choices. So even if they can't speak, they can't move their arms, they can still look at those targets and be able to communicate just using their eyes. He said, let's do that in a digital format. And I said, I think we actually can. So I started coding and putting something together, and that's where Co-VidSpeak came from initially, was this idea of a choice board in a virtual calling environment. Our initial focus was specifically on these hospital situations, somebody that was ventilated and couldn't speak. Maybe they were used to speaking, but they couldn't now. And we had definitely had some people use it there and had some great success there. But as I started to reach out to other people, and people heard about it through the grapevine and things, there were lots of other use cases that came up where this could provide a lot of value. And so we've been working on supporting more than just that hospital sort of setting. Turns out there's a lot of overlap, and there's some really interesting stuff that we can do, which I'll kind of walk you through. But this works really great in a virtual learning situation. When we have an individual who can't speak or is partially verbal, this gives them a great framework to be able to interact, whether it's just using their eyes or using touch to be able to access choices. It gives them another option and helps them be more engaged than you would have on just a face-to-face Zoom or a Google Meet call. We have people who talked about the value of it in a care facility setting, where there's actually still a lot of strict isolation protocols just to keep everyone safe, because that's a high risk group. And they're doing video calls with family members and things, but that's about it. And so there's an opportunity there to be able to help them be able to interact with family instead of just doing a one-way, I'm just going to watch you talk to me sort of an interaction. So Co-VidSpeak is the name of the app, Co-VidSpeak. Everybody's like, oh, COVID. And, obviously we're playing on that, but the idea is that it's a collaborative video speaking resource or tool. And it's open source. The code is actually out there. Anyone could set up a Co-VidSpeak server and they can run it if they wanted to. We've spun one up that people can use if they would like to. And there's a monthly subscription plan that's built into that. But people could also just do their own thing if they wanted to, and that's totally fine. The reason we've done it that way is because we want to get things out as far as we can to as many people as we can. The Co-VidSpeak app has, like I said, it's got a lot of use cases. You can go to the website, co-vidspeak.org, and check it out. There's links for a demo account where you can do just by yourself, and I'll show you what that looks like. You can do a demo account where you do a short call with somebody else. You can sign up for an account. All that's available right there on the website at co-vidspeak.org. We put a lot of emphasis into security and user privacy. So Co-VidSpeak, the servers that run, they don't store any user information. It's just a channel, and the data goes across, but you can't save your session, you can't save settings or anything like that. And that's just so that we can have everything be nice and secure and private, and hopefully as a result, be able to get it out to more people faster. So anyway, that's kind of the basics. Let's jump into the actual tool itself. Co-VidSpeak, there's a link to it from the website. So if you just go to co-vidspeak.org, you can click join a room, and that'll take you here, which is the main starting page for the app. Co-VidSpeak runs in a browser. It'll run in Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge. It'll run on an iPad, an Android phone, an iPhone, a Chromebook, or a computer. But it's just in a browser. There's no app to install. So you just load it up and go. In order to start a room in Co-VidSpeak, you need a join code. And this is in lieu of logins and passwords and email addresses and all of that. You just get a join code. And when you sign up, your account will have a join code tied to it. Once you have a join code, then you can start rooms. And whenever you put in that join code, it will start a unique room. So it's not a reusable room. Like, it's not like you just put in the code and you'll come in the room and then you can leave and come back and people will be able to come and go. Every time it's a brand new room and it's unique and it's private. So we don't have any overlap and anybody accidentally jumping into anybody else's rooms or anything like that. So I'm gonna stop sharing for just a sec so I can put in my super secret join code. Once you put in your join code, it'll take you to a room. It'll start up a room like this and it'll say it's waiting for a partner. This is the basic interface with Co-VidSpeak. Once you're in, you're gonna wanna add the other person. So you can actually schedule rooms in advance, and I'll show that in a little while, to be able to set up a call in advance. But if you haven't done that, then you're just gonna hit invite partner, and you'll see some options for how to let the other person know how to get into the room. You can copy the link and then email it to somebody or text it or whatever. If you're on a device where that's not really an option, you can just put in the email or phone number directly and it'll send it. Or if you happen to be in a situation where you have your phone, let's say you have a device here that you don't control, but you have a device that you control, you can pull it up. You can just scan the QR code using the camera app on your phone. Wait for it. There we go. And then boom, you'll have a place where you can send the link to somebody else or start the call on the other side right there. So I'm gonna start the call right here. Just for a second, I'll do this fun adventure with my phone and the feedback that goes with it. Okay, so you can see me, let's see this, there we go. Okay, so you can see me, I'm doing my video call. And this could be across the internet, anywhere in the country, around the world, or somebody in the next room. There's lots of use cases. That's gonna drive me nuts, so I'm gonna get out of this. So it works for a two-way call. I'm now gonna jump into just what we call the mirror room. If you put in the join code mirror, then you can jump in a room all by yourself. And then you're not gonna have echo and all the weird stuff. We do a mirror of it so you can see it's me, but just flipped. So you can see it slightly different. But that'll let you try stuff out and play with things and get a feel for how it works without having to have somebody else on the other call. We can have calls across the country. So if you're talking to family members or loved ones that live far away, if you're talking about a teacher that's down the street at the school, or if you're talking about a doctor or a physician that needs to follow up from the next room, even there's lots of use cases where this can provide some value because it gives the communicator a chance to participate in the interaction. So here's what we have. We have our video feed. Surrounding the video feed, we have some buttons that we can activate. The video feed itself is actually configurable. So if you are using eye gaze instead of touch for the communicator, let me check and make sure I'm not missing any people that wanted to get in. Yeah, somebody's waiting to get in. Forgot about that. Okay, anyway, if you have somebody who's using eye gaze, then you can set up the video feed so that it's lined up correctly, so that when they look to the left or to the right or look to one of these corners, it's correct and accurate. If it was down here, for example, and I was looking, then I may not be lined up to quite get the right ones. So you can do a little bit of a calibration, zoom in so you can see their eyes more clearly. I kind of squint, so you have to go pretty close for me. But it gives you the chance to be able to calibrate and line it up and then look to the specific targets. So all that's configurable and flexible so that you can get the alignment and the calibration that you need to be able to get good eye gaze. If the person's not doing eye gaze, they can click or they can tap on any of the buttons and it'll activate. And when it activates, it does it on both sides, highlights on both sides, so you can see what's going on. So if I have a communicator who is using their eyes and they look over at a target, say for example, yes, then I can hit yes for them, and they will get the auditory and the visual feedback that it's been activated. They can see that, they can confirm using the video feed to let you know, yes, you got it right, or no, you didn't get it right. So there's either way, right? You can use just your eyes for activation, or you can also use touch if that's easier or more convenient for people. So this is just the very basic default layout. It's called the quick layout. You can always get back to it by just hitting quick. But there are a bunch of other layouts that are available. So there are some default templates, things like if you're talking about your body, if you're talking about a basic choice board, there's a keyboard so you can spell things out, there's pain scale, and there's also a bunch more of these basic templates that you can use based on whatever it is that you're trying to interact about. I'm going to talk about some of those and how we can customize them a little more in a minute, but those layouts are available for everyone. Someone asked if you can switch scan. So because it's in a browser and the targets are browser-based targets, it does switch access just like anything else would inside of a web browser. We'll add some additional switch options in the future that are sort of tool specific, but for now it should actually work. In addition to being able to load different vocabularies and have those laid out, there's also the option to be able to send reactions. So I can send emojis to somebody based on what's going on, right? So I can say, yeah, we did a good job, let's go ahead and clap, or let's celebrate, right? And that sends that same emoji off to the other side, so that we have just a little bit, another way to be able to interact and have some of that kind of fun connection that can provide some value. Additionally, some of the other features that are available inside of Co-VidSpeak, so you can switch the camera feed if you have more than one camera. You can also share your screen or share a picture or a video. So if you just have something where you want to talk, talk about something that happened or share an experience, you can share videos from your device and say, look what we did the other day. You can share your screen for more interactions, or just share pictures if you want to have something to talk about. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we can use those in a minute. So once you have a basic layout up, you can actually customize these on the fly. So for example, our choice layout right here is not super useful by itself because it just says choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, right? But let's say we were talking about, what do you want to eat when we go to Taco Bell? Do you want a burrito? Do you want a taco? Or do you want, what else is it? What else is it? Taco Bell, I don't even know. Nothing. Because I don't know what else to talk about. And when you do that, it'll just pull a quick image so that you can customize these things on the fly. And then you have those options right there. So you can always customize any of these default layouts that are built in to really quickly be able to have some choices and options. I'll talk about some use cases for that in the future in just a minute, but this gives you an idea of what is available. I'm gonna check for our questions real quick before I continue. There's some questions about pricing. I might as well just do that now. So Co-VidSpeak is $8 a month. I'll show you. $8 a month per simultaneous room. So if you have your own account, you're probably just gonna need one room. You can actually share it with multiple people, we don't care. And so as long as you're not using rooms at the same time, that's totally fine. If you start to overlap, then you may need more than one room at a time, right? So maybe you have 5 people and you overlap sometimes, so you're like, oh, we probably need 2 rooms for all 5 of us. That's fine. Then you can have 2 rooms at once as part of your account. It'll run on any device. The other thing to keep in mind, this tool, Co-VidSpeak, it's really about two-way interactions. In the future, we're going to look at some ways to be able to add more people so you could do group calling. But because the focus is so heavy on the individual and trying to help and support them, right now it's a two-way call. So don't think about this as like, we're going to include the whole classroom in this. This is more one-on-one instruction or one-on-one therapy interactions. But that said, there's actually a lot of value we can provide there. Okay, what else? Somebody asked if there are holiday topics. Let me show you in just a second how you can create just about anything you want to. Okay, if you were using the system as an eye gaze only system, is there a way for your partner to choose a new vocabulary? So the way it's set up, you would have to support them. You could give them a choice board with yes and no on it, and you could kind of go through what the options are. And say, do you want to talk about this? Do you want to talk about this? Do you want to talk about this? But there's not. There is one layout that has multi-levels to it that has some additional categories. So if you go to this multi-level layout, which you can customize these too, then we can say, oh, let's go to requests, or let's go to comments, or let's go to body. So you can actually have levels to it. Say I can go to the body board, and then I have that same thing that I would have had. So there are ways to create navigation for individuals so that they be able to access them themselves. Okay. Can this also be used with the classroom students, including eye gaze? Okay, so I just answered that. But basically it's one-on-one right now. In the future, we'll look at some ways to be able to add more people, but just for now, you probably should think of it as just a one-on-one instruction sort of a model. Okay, so when you're customizing, you can tweak what's already there. Like I showed you before, you can cut down on the number of buttons. So if 8 buttons is too many, you can say, you know what, we can't do that many. Let's turn it down so the field is smaller or even smaller. So we just have up, down, left, and right. If that's all they can get at least you can customize it and get them to that point. Additionally, if you want to, by the way, you can rearrange these and it'll remember on that specific device how you've rearranged them. But additionally, you can actually create whatever boards you want. So if you want to use your own pictures, you want to use your own activities and phrases and things, if you click on right here, if you go to the layouts, I'll show you that one more time. You go to load and hit more. There's this link right here it says a public cough drop board. Right now, cough drop's the easiest way to do this. I've set it up so we can actually support lots of different websites, but just cough drop's the easiest way because I knew how to do it. So if you want to be able us to support your website and your boards that you've created, just email me and I can help you set it up. We can figure it out together. In the meantime, let's say you just click on that link and you'll come here to cough drop and you say, I want to make a copy of this board. Let's say I want to have, let's say I want to have a colors board that we're going to make. So I just go ahead and say, all right, here we go. I'm going to make a copy of it. I'm going to edit it. We're going to do, let's see, we'll do red, yellow, green, purple. You get the idea, right? And I'm going to leave that middle spot alone because it doesn't matter. That's where the video is going to go. It's going to ignore whatever's there. And I'm going to leave the top as start over just because that's just easier. I hit save. And then I can just copy this link. I can either copy it from the address bar, or if I hit share, oh, look, I forgot to make it public. It's a good thing I did that. The board has to be, when you edit it, if you go here to edit name and details, the visibility has to be set to public or unlisted. That's to remind you that this board is not private, so you shouldn't be putting private information on it. Co-VidSpeak is not set up really to have private personal information on it. It's not gonna. It's not. We do it in this way on purpose so that we can have some assurances around security. But as a result of that, everything is either is accessible through the web. So let's say we'll go ahead and make it public, which means anyone can search for it in Cough Drop, or unlisted like I did, which means that you have to have the link to it. Then I can come back over here, I can paste in that link, and I can say add this layout. And then I have that layout right here. I can access it inside of Co-VidSpeak. Now I could do links, so if I wanted to link to another board, I could do that from here and it would load up as a linked board inside of Co-VidSpeak, and the links all just kind of work naturally like you'd expect. So you can create some very deep personalized vocabularies. I did the pictures that were defaulted from Cough Drop, but you can upload your own pictures. If you have a board maker account that you've purchased inside of Cough Drop, or a Lesson Pix account or whatever, you can use those images and bring them over. There's a lot of flexibility in how you do it. So you just set it up the way you need to. You can upload the images that you want if you want to do personalized resources for the individual, and then you drop it right here into Co-VidSpeak. Then I've got access to it in addition to all the other vocabularies that I already had. So let's say I have this colors board and it's cool, but it's not my fave, so I'll put it down here on the second row, and then it remembers wherever you put it. Now, in addition to being able to create those custom boards, if you have a group of people and you say, we want to be able to build some resources that we're all going to use, say for example, some learning materials for our school or for our grade level or for whatever it is, once you create a layout, you can actually share that layout as what we call a bundle. So you give it a name, and you don't have to put any of this if you don't want to. And then you say, make this bundle public. Again, remember that because of the way Co-VidSpeak is, you shouldn't be putting private information in here. So then I can link to, if I share this link, I can share it with anybody else, and they will have access to whatever those boards are that I imported, and they can set it as their default. So if they set it as their default, then whenever they load Co-VidSpeak, those will show up just like you see them here for me. So you can have your team all have a consistent set of layouts available right there. So there's a lot of flexibility here in what you put together and how you use it and how you can support the communicator. I'm going to pause again and see if we have any questions. Feel free to type them up and send them if you do. Okay, if you choose to edit a board already made, can you copy that board to edit within Co-VidSpeak and the original is still available? So when you do this customized thing inside of Co-VidSpeak, this is very temporary. This is just for the current, current call, the current interaction. So, if we change these and said update buttons, it's going to pull up some stuff. But then if I load the colors board again, it's going to go back to exactly how it was. So when you hit customize, it's a very temporary thing. This is just for one-off sort of interactions. If you want to do something more permanent, that's when you're going to create your own layouts inside of Cough Drop or some other tool and then import them so that they'll be remembered. So let's talk about some use cases, right? So the medical situation, like we talked about, being able to support people in hospitals, being able to have just some really basic answering questions, yes and no, is valuable and is a useful thing. There is a, let's see, where is it? There's a basic requests board for individuals who are just bored and need some interactions. Additionally, there are some more medical-oriented boards, so we can talk about comfort while you're in the hospital and any requests you may need there. We can talk about when you have a doctor that you're talking to and interacting with, being able to have some basic engagement and be able to talk to them and be able to have a meaningful interaction instead of just listening to whatever they said. There's also a shared reading board that just about anybody can use. So if we're reading them, we can hear what's going on. We can look at pages and be able to interact that way and be able to have some basic reactions too. So keep in mind the layouts that you see anyone on either side can hit and activate these buttons.
That's funny.
Right? And then we'll both hear the auditory feedback and the visual feedback for it. So that interaction can be valuable and useful. You can drive when you change a layout. So when you say, for example, we're going to go to the feelings board, it'll push both sides to that board. So right now that means your communicator can do the exact same thing. They could drive it as well. If we need to be able to turn that off for some communicators, we can look at ways to do that so it's a one-way thing. But as of right now, that's available on both sides. So there is value there. When we talk about supporting communicators, if they have touch, then they can be able to access these additional vocabularies as well. There's also some education-oriented boards. So I showed you the choices board already. Additionally, there's some categorization and ordering boards. I showed you shared reading. There are some layouts that we can use to be able to just get some more engagement and participation. And we can use the tools that we have as part of Co-VidSpeak to make things more interactive. In the past, where maybe we were doing a video feed and it was just video so we could see them, they're watching us, and we're doing a lot of teaching and things, but that's hard to get reciprocation and it's hard to see if things are actually clicking or not. Instead, we can say, for example, let's do categorization. Let's say we were talking about whether things are a plant or an animal. So we create this really temporary board to be able to say, all right, let's talk about, let's talk about some things. So we can talk about it, what's a plant, what's an animal, and then we can actually, because of the sharing options here, we can say, let's go ahead and share a picture. Let's share this picture. All right, what do you think this is? Is this a plant or is this an animal? And they have the choices right there. They don't have to just pick between the two choices. There's also comments around it. So they can say, let me think, or can you help me? But then they can eventually they can pick and say, yes, I think that's an animal. You can say, all right, good job. So we can have something that's a little more engaging rather than just showing a picture and waiting to see what they say, or having to come up with some kind of off-the-cuff communication strategy. We can just show these resources. We'll be able to see their face. So because I'm in the mirror room, I'm seeing the same thing on both, but you would still see their face right here. So you could still see what they were doing, what their reaction was, and then they can also choose what they want to say as their reaction for the question. Additionally, because I haven't shown this yet, one of the other features of Co-VidSpeak is the text input that's available. So you can actually type letters and they'll show up on the screen. Additionally, there's actually a keyboard, an interactive keyboard, and you could create your own too. But there's a keyboard that lets you be able to spell things on the screen. It's got 2 levels to it, right? So I can say, let's go ahead and go C, and then A, and then T. So I can spell cat using the interactive keyboard. Or if I have a keyboard that I type with, I can use that. So this is great because we can be able to create custom messages that wouldn't necessarily fit in any of our options. But it also, I just hit the enter key to make it speak on both sides, by the way. But it also means that we can use this for our learning resources. So if we are, let's say, for example, we came back to the choices board and we're talking about pets. And so we talked about dogs and cats and pets, right? And fish, because those are fun kinds of pets. And so we can actually use this for a literacy support as well. So we can just hit a D, right? If we're like, we're talking about the dog, we're like, which one starts with the D? And when we have a visual feedback right here, we've got a great big D on the screen that we can use to compare. I can type out the whole word so that that can help them find. We can spell out words together this way. And because both of us have control over that same text box, we can partially use the keyboard to spell things out, and we can support them as we go. We can have it on screen and be able to have this literacy support that can help as we're trying to develop for a communicator. So there's a lot of great learning options and activities that we can do here. I can share videos. So if I download videos from YouTube or if I have some interactive videos and things, then we can have a shared video experience. We can talk about, let's see, that's our medical one. We can watch a video and I could show a video. Maybe I'll do that real quick, actually. I have, me and my siblings have been doing, we did this Marble Olympics thing because, you know, coronavirus, everybody's bored out of their minds. That's not a good example. Probably broke all kind of copyright laws just then. But we can have an interactive video and we can pause it and then be able to say, you know, how are they feeling? What's that person feeling like? It looks like they were kind of sad, right? So whether someone has an AAC device in front of them that they can use on the video call, or if you're talking to someone who doesn't yet have an AAC system, or doesn't have, or we're still working just on cause and effect and some of these basic interactions, or we're going to match what's on their AAC system and create a layout that matches what they're used to, or even just some of the options that they're used to. There's lots of ways that we can use this to make our video call more engaging and interactive. So like I said before, we've had people in the medical space using this, and they've said that the people who used it preferred it over paper-based solutions, which is probably kind of obvious because it's more dynamic and engaging. And they also, it became their choice for interaction, their preferred choice for interaction. In the educational environment, we had a group of students, the teachers talked about how it increased engagement and participation, and even vocalizations, even spoken, even speech by the individuals, because they were more excited and more engaged and more participatory. So there's been lots of cases already where we've seen how this can add value for the communicators. We can use it in an educational setting. We can create boards that are specific to the topics that we're working on, and that's really easy to do. Or we can use these quick fire templates that are there as well to be able to throw something together on the fly. We've also had people just use it for family, right? So they're talking about family and how we're all physically distanced now and none of us get to be by each other. And being able to have a resource where I as a non-speaking individual can engage with my family who may not be close to me. My daughter is 13 years old and she's nonverbal. She has Rett syndrome and she's kind of on the severe end. And she uses eye gaze and AAC as her primary form of interaction. And being able to have something like this, right, to where she can be able to interact with her family who is not coming to visit right now because, you know, we're all kind of trying to, you know, be careful. And, you know, now we're in the beginning of the school year and it seems like everywhere, everybody's like, well, we're going to go for 2 weeks and we'll see what happens. And we're all just kind of waiting and holding our breath to see if we end up all online or if this face-to-face with masks thing is going to work out okay. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, we do have a lot of non-speaking or partially speaking individuals who are getting some remote instruction and remote therapy and remote interactions. And so with Co-VidSpeak, we've tried to create a resource that can help with that. Somebody asked before about price, and it is $8 a month per simultaneous room. Now, the way we've done it, you don't get charged for months where you don't really use it. So if you use less than, is it 30? I don't want to misspeak. I think it was 30 minutes, right? Yeah, okay. So if you don't use more than 30 minutes in a month, then you won't get billed. It just won't charge you for that month. So that's great for, you know, if you're a teacher and you're like, yeah, I'm going to use it during the school year and then I have to remember to cancel for the summer because I don't want to pay, you know, $8 a month for June, July, and August because that's kind of a waste. And I'm paying for it myself. Then cool, go for it. You can sign up and we won't charge you. You need a credit card to sign up. But then once you have it, like I said, it'll only bill you for the months that you use it heavily. And additionally, families, you know, if you're just using it every once in a while to talk to people, we ask for a credit card, but you're not going to get billed if your calls or if you're doing one call for less than 30 minutes a month. We set it up that way because we really want people to be able to use this. Obviously, we have to be able to pay for these video servers, and video calling is not super cheap, but it's not crazy expensive either. So we're trying to sort of thread that needle and walk that balance because we want people to be able to use it and benefit from it. We believe that Co-VidSpeak can add a lot of value, and so we're not trying. I'm a special needs dad. I know how many additional expenses show up. And it's like, holy cow, here's another one that it just happens all the time. And so we're not trying to, you know, dig in and scoop out as much cash as we can from everybody. We just want it to be sustainable so that the product can hang around for a long time, the business can be successful and effective, and we can keep adding to it. Some of the stuff that we're talking about adding in the future, there's some interesting web libraries that I think will let us do some head tracking, like head pointer, and maybe even a little bit of eye gaze, like eye tracking, even though it's in a browser. So I'm going to play with some of that and see how it goes. We're going to add some additional vocabularies to it as well. I want to add to be able to, we have, you can share your screen and you can share pictures. I want to be able to share a YouTube video too, and you can sort of co-watch it at the same time. And then also Tar Heel Reader, I think, will be a really good one to be able to add so that we can have these shared reading experiences. Tar Heel Reader has the Tar Heel Shared Reader now, which is great. And I think about, if one of the really good use cases, if we can read a book together, that can be really engaging and valuable. So these are some of the ideas I'm sort of stewing on, and I just can't not mess with it because I think there's a lot of value here, and I think we could do something cool. So if you have ideas or suggestions or feedback, feel free to send them my way. Oh, one other thing I want to show you. So if you are sharing your screen, I've had this question a couple times. Sharing your screen, there's just a little bit of a trick to it. So this is the way I would do it. You can always just share your screen and it'll just show the screen right here in the video feed. But then what happens is you can't really see them the same time you're sharing your screen. You kind of lose them in the video. And so that's not ideal. So instead, if you say, I'm going to share my screen, as far as I know, this only works in Chrome. You can say, I'm going to share a Chrome tab. So let's say I'm going to share this tab right here. Okay. So then I've got the tab. I can see it. It's backwards, by the way, just because I'm in a mirror room. It wouldn't usually do that, so don't freak out about it. But this way, I can actually still see them. If I resize things, I can get both right here on the same screen. So I can have my screen with whatever it is I'm showing. I can show them and it can be interactive right here on the screen, but then I can also have their video feed right there. I wanted to do something better where, like when you're in a Zoom app, it like pops out the video so you can see it regardless of whatever you're doing, but browsers just don't seem to cooperate with that. So this is the workaround. There is a workaround and it works pretty well. You just kind of shrink your browser windows and you have to do it in Chrome versus anything else. So anyway, those are the things that I wanted to share. I'm going to open it up for questions now. I'm going to look and see if there are questions that people have in the chat. I'm happy to show anything again. I'm happy to go over this again. Like I said, we'll post this webinar online too once it's finished. And as long as I didn't embarrass myself too much, maybe I was picking my nose and I forgot or something. But let me check our questions here. Okay, question around, are you planning to introduce other languages? I've tried my mother language Polish, but only some symbols occurred on the choice board. Yeah, that's a great idea. And because there's because the templates that are here are pretty limited, I think we can do some of that pretty easily. If you created a board using Cough Drop or some other service and it was in a different language, that should actually work just fine. And I did it in a way that I think the voices, the text to speech, will work too. It won't speak in English, but nobody's done it. So if you want, if you are someone who wants to help with that, feel free to send me a message, and I would, I can do Google Translate for some of this stuff, but we all know that's about 75% accurate. So feel free to message me if you're interested in helping out with that. Does it bill if you're in the mirror call just exploring? No. So there are two rooms. So it only bills to the join code that you put in. That's the good way to remember it. Oh, I forgot. That's the other thing I have to say. Don't give out your join code. Like, don't give it to families or anything like that. They don't need it. And then they could start rooms and they can add to your bill, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't want that. So your join code is something that you and your practitioners or your teachers or whoever have access to. So they create the rooms and then they invite the other side. So the invite link is what the other side gets. They don't get that join code. You can think of the join code as kind of like a password, right? So we're not going to give it out and share it. It's just something that we keep for ourselves because it's how we start rooms. So in fact, once you have the join code, I'm gonna stop sharing again for just a second so I can show you something else. Okay, so once you have the join code, you can actually, when you type in the join code, whatever it is, you'll see this little link down here that says manage session schedule. This is how I can schedule rooms in advance. So this is my schedule right here. You can see the rooms that I've launched. I can schedule a new room with a time on it. So let's say, you know, I'm gonna do a party room here in a little while. You pick if you're gonna join as the communicator or not. When you join a room, you might've seen that on the main page as well. Add me to the room as the communicator. When you join a room as the communicator, it means that the buttons are going to be lined up the way you think they are. So you're going to have, you'll have yes on this side and no on that side. If I join as not the communicator, it would actually be flipped. Just like with an E-Tran board, you're on the opposite side. The yes would be on the right and the no would be on the left. So don't say like, point to the right or point to the left because that won't make any sense. They'll be opposites. And it just has to be flipped like that to make all the video things work the way they're supposed to. But anyway, you can pick when you start a room or when you schedule a room if you're going to join as the communicator or if you're going to join as not the communicator. Just depends on your use case. So you schedule a room. Once you schedule the room, you can start it or you can copy the attendee link. And that's what they will use to be able to join the room themselves. So that's how you can easily schedule. If you have a group of people and you're sharing a join code, then you can together you can schedule so you don't overlap and step on each other as far as scheduling goes. So the mirror join code does not bill you anything. It's just a free one. It's just you by yourself. It doesn't take any of our video. It doesn't take any of our video servers to run because it's all local on your desktop. So we don't care. Go nuts with that. There's 2 other join codes you can use. If you use demo, you'll get a 3-minute room. So this is just a throwaway room. If you want to play with somebody else, get on a call with somebody else and figure things out for a minute. That's totally cool, but it's really short. It's just 3 minutes. Or you can put in teach. And there's links to this room specifically, which is an interactive room, which kind of walks you through the features of Co-VidSpeak.
Hi, my name's Brian.
So you can see me.
To Co-VidSpeak.
And it'll pause.
This is an app you can use to communicate.
It'll pause partway through to kind of teach you how to use the app. So those are the join codes that you can use for free, and they won't bill to anybody or anything like that. Do you keep the same account if you renew each month? Yeah. So you put in your account information, and then you'll have access to it. And it'll just stay unless you go cancel the account. What kind of symbols can be added? AirSac, Mulberry, Sclera, PCS. Any of those symbols can be added if you do it from a different site. So for example, if you do it from Cough Drop, you can put any of those in and it'll work just fine. If you're doing it inside of Co-VidSpeak, then your choices are emoji symbols or with our default layouts, you can actually pick lesson pick symbols as well because of our partnership with them. So when I was like customizing them and it was just doing these, these one-off things, that'll use open license symbols, either emoji or AirSac, just depending on what you need. You can set it up so it doesn't speak when the buttons are hit. You can have text only. So if you don't want to have images, you just want to do text, that works just fine too. You can change your camera here if you need to, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a manual for Co-VidSpeak dummies? Yes, right here on the website, if you say new to Co-VidSpeak, you can send us a message anytime. You can say, hey, I'm confused, can you tell me what to do, and we'll answer it. Or you can go to our FAQ right here, which has some basic questions. And it also, I didn't add it yet. This will, starting in like an hour, have a link to our support site. So as part of our support portal, there's a whole section on Co-VidSpeak, and I'll link to that. What is Co-VidSpeak? How much does it cost? How do I start a session? How do I choose a template? Because it's not like there's a ton of functionality here, but there's enough that it's like, okay, I probably need to remember how to do this. And there's videos in these, so you can see how they go. We have a YouTube section on our YouTube channel that has all of these examples of how to do certain things inside of Co-VidSpeak. So you don't have to remember it all, but if you do have questions, feel free to send them our way. Just hit new to Co-VidSpeak, say contact us, send us a message, and we'll get back to you. So that's it. That's the stuff I wanted to make sure and cover. I'm not seeing any other questions come in. If anybody has any after the fact, they can feel free to message me. You can email me, brian@coughdrop.com. This, by the way, is, as you probably noticed, it's related to what we've done with Cough Drop, but it's completely independent. We'll fold some of the functionality back into Cough Drop eventually, but this will be an independent thing. So you don't feel like you have to use Cough Drop to use Co-VidSpeak. You can use it with any other AAC system, any other symbol libraries that you want to use, but it should work great. So thanks again, everybody. Appreciate your time. Hopefully this was useful and valuable. Go play with it. Go try it out in the mirror room and see what you think. And feel free to sign up for an account and help us continue to spread it to more people. So thanks again, everyone, for your time. And have a great night.